empower it, while the negative just says, oh, thanks very much, I'll just carry on as usual then, no problem, and away we go, and it goes on doing its stuff day after day, while so many people just look the other way because they can't face, well, they don't want to look at what they don't want to know. I mean, so many people I come across around the world, or not so much today because there's an awakening going on, but certainly over the years, it's almost the way they react against the information that I'm putting out is so over the top, because they're basically saying, shut up, I don't want to hear it, okay? Because it's much better if they don't know it exists and they don't know what's going on, because then they can kid themselves that they don't have to do anything. And subconsciously, and increasingly very close to the conscious, they know that if they look at this information and they look at what's really going on, then their lives are going to change. Yeah. And they don't want to face that, because one of the great fears that human beings have is the fear of change. And they would much rather be in the dark, being ignorant of what's going on, and therefore have an excuse to do nothing about it, so their lives can just tick along as normal, than to actually know what's going on, and therefore have to face a very different world to the one they thought they were living in.
Yes, well, I would definitely say your message is about getting out of the comfort zone. Maybe, can we start, where is the beginning of this story? Where does the story start for you?
Well, for me, it starts back in the 1980s, really. It started the moment I was born, when I look back, but I wasn't really conscious until the 1980s. I was going
to say, maybe we could catch it up a little later in the story then.
It virtually demanded that I come on the air and categorically state whether or not I believe in God, the God in heaven, the God of the Bible. Do I believe Jesus Christ was real on earth and the Son of the God of the Bible? Do I believe in the Holy Trinity? And on and on and on. Do I categorically, yes or no, it demanded, believe in these things? And, I've received, that kind of thing from people before, but somehow with this program coming and what I was thinking, it hit me right between the eyes, and I thought, if they slammed me up against the wall, Doctor, and they made me answer that question, I would have to say, no, I don't. I don't absolutely know it to be true, and this will surprise a lot of my audience. There are things that fly in our skies, Doctor, that are UFOs. Now, do I know? I know that part for sure, because I've seen one. But do I know they contain little green guys, gray guys, or whatever, or military guys in their own craft? Could I state categorically that we're being visited from elsewhere? No, and I wouldn't. So I'm even skeptical about that.
Don Hewitt, who is the executive producer of 60 Minutes, who admits on camera that they successfully hid the truth from the American people to get Clinton through the New Hampshire primary. And I was flabbergasted that here a professional journalist, presumably, brags to the people that they hid the truth. I thought the role of the media was to inform the American people. It's essentially the process. And it was my first glimmer of the incredible power structure that is obfuscating this whole situation. But anyway, moving on. He's also a graduate of the University of Kentucky and also North Carolina. Infantry, paratrooper, Marine Corps. I love to tell my friends that all Marines go to heaven, and they always ask why, and I says, well, they never reach the age of accountability, and so I pulled that on Tom a couple of times. But he also served in Korea and in Vietnam, got a disability from the Vietnam situation. But he's also on our guest today as the author of a book called Please Tell Me. And Tom, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chuck.
Tom, now that I didn't get it out of the bus driver, please tell me what goes on.
Yeah, what goes on?
What goes on behind those closed doors?
Well, this is a subject because I think in our culture, it's probably not as dominant as it has been in the American culture in earlier years, and yet Freemasonry is a very, very big thing, but it's very low profile other than its philanthropic activities. And many people are really not aware, even many people just aren't aware what Freemasonry is really all about. And I guess that's what really leads us to, please tell us, Tom.
Yeah, you know, that is true. And they are deliberately low profile with the single exception of the shrine, which is actually a kind of a renegade offshoot of Freemasonry, but it's the one that gives it most of its credibility because of their children's hospitals and burn centers. Freemasonry, what is it? Most people, when you ask them about Masons, they think you're talking...
You never get at it. But in this way, you're faced with it, you're doing all this. And that's an extraordinary shock. So, cheer up. You can't blame anyone else for the kind of world you're in. And that helps a great deal, because most of the good things we are trying to do are based on blaming somebody else and to improve them. Kindly let me help you or you'll drown, said the monkey, putting the fish safely up a tree. If therefore we would stop blaming others, it would be very difficult to go about a war with a straight face. And
living in flocks and living in prides and living in herds and the like. We have this tendency, which I say is widespread in the animal kingdom, this tendency to put ourselves into groupings. Well, of course, given Aristotle's whole approach to understanding, the question that naturally arises is why? Why do we do? What are those groupings for? What's the whole point of it? We might say, what is the logos that seems to govern this affiliative tendency? And anyway, not only do we have a tendency to group ourselves together, but it seems we don't let it stop at the level of tribal enclaves. We don't let it stop at the level of small familial organization. There seems to be, whenever there are favoring circumstances, there seems to be a movement very much in the direction of the forming of a polis. And so this does raise a very, very interesting question. Why should this tendency to live in the company of others ever move beyond the stage of very, very small tribal enclaves? What purpose is being served by more...